because my background is in psychology. I did my bachelor's in psychology, but that covers the broad topics, not necessarily process of understanding the nervous system to get, let's say, trauma out. Is that possible?
First of all, I had psychologists as clients, but then I was also working in our
Beautiful.
training with a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists. The difference is psychology, don't get me wrong, psychology is interesting to, analyze patterns and understand and where
Yeah, but it's all
something
from the
comes
brain.
from.
Yeah.
It's the brain, and primarily it's prefrontal. It's prefrontal cortex. It's analyzing, rationalizing, understanding, which is all cortical and prefrontal.
Totally.
However, the brain is made up of different levels. I always say the trauma, especially if it's old things, and the areas of the brain that create survival mechanisms that then get stuck and lead to problems, those are not here. So understanding or analyzing or even talking about it won't help you. It just doesn't. I mean, I tried for many years. I released an article the other day on LinkedIn where I said, even if you drank ayahuasca 10 times, you can still be an asshole. Ayahuasca is great medicine, right? It's a beautiful, wonderful, powerful indigenous medicine. Here, and like my past self and many other people that I see these days, you consume that thinking, which is the mindset of the Western, let's say, consumerist society that, I'm just going to take that and then my problems are solved. And the more I purge, the more I puke, the more I travel to, consciousness and meet God and have all these incredible insights, and the more my body shakes, the more I heal. But no, absolutely not.
Hello and welcome. Today I'm talking with Johannes Eisenburger. He does a lot of things, but he helps people to regulate their nervous system so that they can live a more peaceful and mindful life. We just had a conversation where we talk about what this means, because so many people, they go to therapy, which is fine, but it's very cognitive. And it does take a lot of work to rewire our whole way of being just simply from the brain. Because in the end, our brain is the one that creates the chemicals that then make our nervous system react in a certain way to a specific stimuli. And so what he does is we dive into how this nervous system works, how we can make shifts in it, like through different specific exercises, so that we can actually live a more peaceful life and live truly to who we are. Talk about psychedelics a little bit, business as well. And it's an awesome episode. Enjoy. Before we dive in, actually, one of my favorite questions is, what's something that maybe you don't often mention enough, but you wish people actually knew a bit more about you? What's an aspect of your life you wish people knew more?
Oh my God, there are so many things. The first thing that came to my mind is I'm way more shy than I come across. People always think, like, you're not shy. I'm like, I'm fucking shy. Like, I have like social anxiety in groups. Like I do. But they don't think, because I don't know, for some other reason, I also come across as very it's very interesting. Just in the retreat that the facilitator training where I was last week, and then somebody, reflected to me like, hey, you are like this very calm, grounded, steady presence in this group. I was like, interesting. I mean, yes, I feel that way. That is true in a way, but also, yeah, I'm not always as confident or as sure of myself as I probably come across. So that's one of the things among a few others.
Do you like that label?
What, confident?
Shy.
Or shy?
Shy.
Is it a label? I don't know. It's something, this relates. I mean, you wanted to talk a bit about the healing journey, which is something that I've been on for more than a decade. Over the years and over the time, over the years of working on myself and doing all the different modalities that I do, and more sort of shedding skins and working through the layers of conditioning, I started to get to know a different side of myself that was very confusing, that I'm still sort of integrating, because it was a side of me that was, as I said, more calm, more introspective, less center of attention, less like, look at me, everybody, I'm in the room and I'm the loudest one and I'm the life of the party. This is how I used to be. And then suddenly I became more, quiet and introspective and calm, and like in a group, being part of I've experienced it last week, being part of a group, but there was somebody else where I was like, wow, I would have been that guy. The guy was hilarious, so much fun, constantly cracking jokes. Yeah. And I was just, calm, sitting by the sidelines. And this is a side of me that I've started to discover in recent years, which, to be honest with you, Oscar, I think it's actually my real self. And the other sort of the loud, the confident, the life of the party center of attention type of personality, not that it was wrong or bad, even though it might have sometimes been a bit exhausting for people, was more conditioning, more like, patterns, ego. Yeah. So I wouldn't call it a label, shy. It's more like something where I'm like, yeah, that this is a part of me. And for
Yeah.
so long, especially men, and or you don't know, but I'm embarking more on this mission to work with men and creating a movement around masculinity, which I'm happy to talk
Yeah.
about later. I mean, I just see it in myself how much we are like wearing masks. Men, at least me, wearing masks, trying to look like I've got it all under control, I'm, yeah, man, no, this is just so annoying, it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, long answer to your
That's
question, but yeah.
beautiful. Beautiful though. And especially that label though, because I used to get that a lot and I didn't like it because I grew up being the shy kid. So for me, it was, I wanted to get away from that, which is where and I would say I find a closer version to my true self, which is one that's embracing, there's just the inner confidence, I guess, and being able to express oneself better and
Beautiful.
be more
Like,
truthful.
interesting to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very different. My journey I was never the shy kid. I was always the loudest. I was always like, there was nothing wrong with that. It was fun.
No,
And,
for sure.
but I think also the way I grew up and in my family and everything, and in the society that I grew up, for some reason, I'm not blaming anyone. No, it's not anybody made me, but like just that the play of overconfidence and like very demanding presence and just basically also a sort of entitlement, of like, hey, I own this fucking place, in a sense of like not owning as in like materially owning, but like energetically. This is just like in a way how I was conditioned and for many years, and it's again not wrong, but I'm seeing more and more that the truth and all I do in my work is guiding people back to their truth, whatever that might be. Now, I'm not saying I own the truth, I own my truth, but that truth
That's important.
is a different one.
Yeah. That's like the ultimate mission. Before, you told me in the previous business and previous way you were coaching people, it was all about nervous system regulation.
How is that?
Yeah. How important is that? Like to be able to find the one's
truth? It is everything for me is around the nervous system. The difference is that I was talking a lot about trauma in the past, right? And I had this I was on this horse, like trauma healing. Let's make it the most popular thing, like yoga, because my life changed so much when I finally did proper trauma therapy, and I was privileged to become a trauma therapist and work and study with Peter Levine, the godfather of trauma therapy, and other great teachers. And I was just like so excited. I'm sure you can relate. Like suddenly, like, wow, I found like the missing link, the piece of the puzzle, that the sword in the stone. And like I found it, people, and my life changed. Look, and so I go out into the world with this mission and this business, and I kind of bounce back from it, realizing people don't want to hear about trauma, and they don't want to be. They want to they do, but they don't. So I had clients who worked with me who went out equally excited to refer me and refer all their friends to me, but they're like, I don't have a trauma. I don't want to go to a trauma therapist. So that was really interesting to see, like, wow, there is still such a big stigma out there. Huge. So then, and as you know, because we met in a community around business and where everybody, everybody like you and me, we have a business that we work on, and the mission and the drive that we want to bring out into the world. So I thought, does it really make sense to talk about trauma so much, even though there is such a big stigma, aside of the people who, are, literally have diagnosed PTSD and they know, okay, I'm fucking traumatized. I'm like a wreck.
That's the extreme case.
You see, but like, since I was always working with people like, basically people like you and me, company owners, CEOs, founders, high performers, high achievers, ambitious people who have like stuff going on inside of themselves, but they're not like clinically depressed or not able to function. And for those people, trauma is like, even though everybody has it, so probably. So that's why I started to, and in the end, trauma is a dysregulation in the nervous system. So in a nutshell, it boils down again to the nervous system. So I'm starting to get rid a little bit of that trauma word, even though I am a trauma therapist. But I'm talking more about the nervous system. There's now becoming more and more of a hype around it, and it is the end all be all for me to work in personal growth and also spirituality and everything. So
that's one area actually that I'm not completely familiar, or like I guess the process of it, which I would love to dive in a little bit, because my background is in psychology. I did my bachelor's in psychology, but that covers the broad topics, not necessarily the process of understanding the nervous system to get, let's say, trauma out? Is that possible? And how would that?
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I was working, first of all, I had psychologists as clients, but then I was also working in our
Beautiful.
training with a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists. The difference is
Mm.
psychology, don't get me wrong, psychology is interesting to, analyze patterns and understand and where
Yeah, but it's all
something
from the
comes
brain.
from. It's
Yeah.
the brain, and remember, it's prefrontal. It's
Mm.
prefrontal cortex. It's analyzing, rationalizing,
Yeah, yeah.
understanding, which is all cortical and prefrontal.
Totally. Totally.
And so cortical means neocortex, so that most evolved area of our brain, and prefrontal is where we analyze and think and all
Yeah.
these kind of things. However, the brain is made up of different levels, and I always say the trauma, especially if it's old things, and the areas of the brain that create the survival mechanisms that then get stuck and lead to problems, those are not here. So
Mm.
understanding or analyzing or even talking about it won't help you. It just doesn't.
Mm.
I mean, I tried for many years. And it just doesn't.
Yeah.
And I even tried I released an article the other day on LinkedIn where I said, even if you drank ayahuasca 10 times, you can still be an asshole. Sorry about the word. I'm not sure if you have to bleep that.
It's okay.
But because I did a lot of ayahuasca, like 12 years ago, I started with it.
Interesting.
And I thought I would be healing, right? That's what many
Yeah.
people think these days.
I have that belief. Tell me why.
Yeah. So ayahuasca is great medicine, right? It's a
Mm.
beautiful, wonderful, powerful indigenous medicine. In most cases, however, it's taken completely out of context because in those tribes that have been using it for millennia, they live in villages, and the
Mm-hmm.
shaman is part of that village, and
Mm-hmm.
that using that medicine in their rituals is part of their cultural context.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is, they give it to their kids or whatever, so there is a context of working with that. However, here, and like my past self and many other people that I see these days, you consume that thinking, which is the mindset of the Western, let's say, consumerist society, that, oh, I'm just going to take that and then my
Fix.
problems are solved.
Yeah.
That the pharmacological aspect of, like, oh, I'm just going to pop a pill and then the pain is gone.
Mm.
That's absolutely not how it works. But and the contrary, ayahuasca is incredibly powerful and can be life-changing if done in the right context, and most importantly, with the right integration afterwards. Because many people either go to some retreat in Portugal or even like in some cities, or they fly to the jungle, in Amazon, and they do that stuff. But then they come back to their office in London City with a job they hate and bills they have to pay. And nobody who can help them sort of integrate that experience that they've had. And in my case, for example, then I thought, and there was not so much talk about it, was a bit more underground still, if you think about 12 years ago.
Yeah.
It was just like, I thought, okay, I'll just do more of that. And the more I purge, the more I puke, the more I travel to, consciousness and meet God and have all these incredible insights. And the more my body shakes, the more I heal. But no, absolutely not. I got more dissociated.
Really?
More dysregulated, and yeah, it really blew up in my face badly. Yeah. Yeah, that's what people just don't talk about, unfortunately.
But here's one question though. Like, wouldn't you think that, let's say, if you have some kind of healing, whether it's through ayahuasca or another psychedelic, that it would maybe help you to create some different meaning around the trauma that you had, or like, which can be stimulated by external stimuli, and maybe you can learn to get better at associating different meanings.
Of course you can, and of course what I'm saying, it doesn't count for everybody. But if somebody like, let's say me, who had already a very traumatized nervous system and a very challenging sort of, which now I know, neurodivergence, because everything I do these days is based on neuroscience. Everything. So last night I was up until 3 a.m. because I was reading deep, like as granular as you could get into the functioning of because I studied brain development. So now I'm going deeper into it a bit. It can be just very destabilizing, ayahuasca, and especially if you do not have the help of somebody to integrate it into your daily life. So what you just said, meaning making. But doing that alone is extremely tricky because, and this is what happens a lot, and you see it in these circles, is that you get an experience, let's say a deeply spiritual experience, oneness or something. And then very often it happens that the ego, and you know about the workings of the ego, if that is not, if you don't have a therapist or somebody to guide you through that, then the ego can take that experience and it makes like a mental concept out of it, a construct, like a spiritual concept. And suddenly the ego that maybe before was like, hey, I'm this successful private equity dude, and I'm 35 and I'm killing it with my whatever, and you identify with that, you identify your worth with that. then suddenly that
Mm.
ego that has experienced something else now is like, I'm actually God, and everything is God, and everything is
Oh
connected.
crap.
Then that
Mm.
ego can take on that coat and say, I'm actually on a path of healing now. And I don't need this material world anymore. And all these people that are just not evolved, they're just not conscious. But I'm conscious because I'm drinking ayahuasca and I'm now spiritual. It's such a trap. I've been on that trap. That's why
So
I
many
joke
people fall
about it.
into it.
So many people, and
Everybody
I
in
call
Bali is
it,
on that trap.
absolutely, I call it psychedelic narcissism. It's a word I coined there. Spiritual elitism. It's very, very, very dangerous. And for me, it really blew up in my face badly. So hence, I talk about these things today with bit of a twink of an eye and a grain of salt, but
Mm.
like
Mm.
out of real care, because like I'm like, guys and girls, please be careful, because I know I didn't end up in a clinic, but I know
Yeah.
of many people who ended up in clinics. I myself ended up
Mm.
in a really dark suicidal depression, was like, what's wrong with me? I thought I was healed because I drank ayahuasca 25 times. Why am I so depressed?
Oh, that's
So
crazy.
yeah, really crazy, and it's true.
W-
So, and that's why. And then
what
after the hmm?
just one question. What were the thoughts like going from between ayahuasca retreats, and were you noticing it getting worse, or like how were your
No,
thoughts
there was a
changing?
trigger moment. There was a trigger moment. There was a big trigger moment. But two of my best friends died within the same week, so that was a trigger moment in and by itself.
Mm.
But that just basically, like ripped open the septic tank, basically, of stuff that wasn't really properly looked at underneath. And
Mm.
then I spiraled down and I had no idea. And then
No, yeah.
I sought help because I literally was thinking about ending my life. And then I was like, fuck. Okay. So, and that's really
Yeah.
when I embarked on this path that I'm on now. First of all, with many
Mm.
years of actually trauma work. Yes, sometimes with the use of psychedelic assisted psychotherapy. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. But in the right
Yeah.
context with professional guidance and put into, because I am not part of a tribe in Peru. I am
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
Austrian person living in Switzerland, and
Yeah.
I have no ancestry from Peru. This is not my culture. It's just like taken out of context. And
Yeah.
again, I'm not saying it's wrong. It's a beautiful medicine, but it has to
Mm.
sort of find its way into how we in the Western world live, and that divide between, wow, I'm doing the dieta and I'm living in the jungle and I'm having all this experience, and then I'm coming back to this Western
Mm.
fast-paced, unhealthy life
Mm.
is tricky. And then you get the spiritual concept, and that, yeah, it's so
I
psychologically it can be quite dangerous as well.
I appreciate
Yeah.
that a lot
Mm.
because you don't hear that many opposing opinions to ayahuasca. I would say
Yeah, I know.
most
I know.
people are like, "Fuck yeah, let's change my life."
And it
Yeah,
can. It can. Again, like I
hundred
don't want to
percent.
take away anybody's experience, but I'm just saying,
Mm.
especially for people who have strong egos, yours
Mm.
truly, and or who have been already suffered quite a bit of trauma because of I'm writing my book right now, so I'm writing about all these things that I've experienced. There's a reason I became a trauma therapist. So there was like,
Mm.
above average experience, and PTSD twice and stuff. Be careful. And the ego, as I said, the ego, and you see it with so many people, it's so annoying with this spiritual ego. It is so annoying. And as I said, like I see these people now and I see my past self. So
Mm.
God, it's yeah, I used to be that guy. I used to be that like slightly spiritually arrogant guy, judging people for not being on the path, and like for still like drinking
I have those
alcohol. I mean,
friends.
this is so unconscious. It's so stupid. I mean, I don't drink
You,
alcohol, but
no, dude, I catch myself. I need to catch myself on because I don't drink either. But I'm like I know that there could be judgments. Like just trying to release the judgments.
yeah, it's very funny.
Yeah.
It's been a fun
Yeah,
ride.
it's funny. Fucking hilarious. I don't know if you've seen that. Just makes me think of like, have you seen the Instagram reels of like the AI generated life in Bali, which is exactly what you're describing, but
Yeah,
they're so
yeah,
funny. They're so stupid. Um, so tell me now, how does nervous system healing work actually? Because I don't know. What does that
I
have
mean,
to happen
very, very
compared to
simply
like
put.
therapy even? Yeah.
I mean, therapy, let's say CBT, cognitive behavioral
Mm-hmm.
therapy, or whatever. You sit and you talk about your problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you maybe
Mm-hmm.
get new insights or perspectives, which is good. What I don't like about it is it's all very rational and prefrontal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Usually bringing in the soma, the somatics, the body is not really part of it, and different areas of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Because in
Mm-hmm.
somatic experiencing, for example, what we're doing and generally in also the breath, the alchemy rewiring that I've been doing, is that you bring the whole
Mm.
brain back into coherence. So you bring back all the three
Mm.
different, basically we have three main areas of the brain, sort of the
Mhm, mhm.
reptile brain, limbic emotional brain, and the neocortical brain, and to bring that back into coherence, right? So that it's all
Mm.
working. Because trauma and stuff is not, doesn't come from thinking. It comes from the
No.
brains, from the reptile
Mm.
brain, which
Yeah.
don't want to get into so many details about this, but so a big part basically about using the nervous system to regulate trauma. Trauma in the sense is like, imagine a river, the flow of life, life's energy, chi, prana, whatever, and then a tree trunk falls into that river and creates
Mm.
this rupture. And as this tree trunk falls into the river, there, the life force can't really flow freely anymore. And
Mm.
little
Mm.
vortexes, you've seen it in these little creeks, right?
Mm.
There's suddenly, when there's a stone or a tree, there's a little vortex where the water is held back and actually suddenly, instead of flowing, gets stuck. It's the same with the energy
Mm.
inside. Energy in the form of emotions and everything can get stuck
Mm.
in our system, triggered through the nervous system, because in any moment that there is a perceived or real danger, then our
Yeah.
system automatically gets into either, "Oh, can I fight this, or do I have to run away?" And if none of those work, then the only option is like, okay, then I'm just gonna freeze and pretend I'm
Yeah.
dead, right? And we all know that. And those are the three. There's a bit more, but like
Okay.
fight, flight, freeze,
Freeze.
as in the ways the nervous system can handle with actual or perceived threat. So it
Mm.
can be whatever, a car that's racing towards you and you have to jump aside,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it can also be a boss that is abusive in certain ways or something, or like a
Mm.
really unhealthy toxic work environment, like it can
Totally.
be all of that. So using the nervous system, and then the nervous system gets stuck in these fight, flight, freeze
Yeah.
states.
With similar stimuli,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes. And so it gets, basically, it stays there. Like the event, whatever caused it, is already long gone, but the
Mm.
body or the nervous system specifically kind of still lives there. And neurochemically is very interesting, because then, it creates imbalances in our brains, right? So like then
Mm.
suddenly we have like constant high levels of cortisol, the so-called stress hormone, which really
Mm.
messes with our immune system, with our immune response, with our liver. So like short amounts of cortisol, great, we need that. Consistent chronic amounts of cortisol are incredibly
Mm.
detrimental. Same with
Mm.
adrenaline. Then, and then when this whole thing, this brain chemistry, which is an incredible machine, falls into disbalance, and then we start lacking dopamine, or we start lacking serotonin, and then we get these symptoms that we call depression,
Mm.
ADHD, etc., etc. Or the body starts to, because we're so wired. Like let's say I'm lucky actually that I had all these crashes early in life, but I work with people who
Mm.
are 55 and they've been always
Mm.
on. These people, the high achievers, the CEOs, the executives, the go-getters, the successful people in our society. Why they're so
Mm.
successful? Because they have, not all of them, of course, but they have this internal drive, this drivenness that just allows us to just, power and plow through. I've
Mm.
had that too, until I crashed. And these people also usually crash around 55, because the
Yeah.
body around 50, 55 cannot live with such high levels
Mm.
of stress. And the stress is not mental thinking, oh, I have so much to do. No, it is neurochemical. It is purely biological.
Yeah. And people just
And
get used to it,
you just get
right? They
used to
don't
it.
feel
You're
it.
not even used to it. You get addicted to it. That's the crazy thing.
Mm.
It's an
Mm.
addiction loop. We get addicted to dopamine or adrenaline and these kind of things, right? So, and then we find the body, because always it wants to stay in equilibrium, in homeostasis, we find ways to temporarily regulate. So moments that
Mm.
bring us into a moment of like, like finally I can chill. Sauna,
Yeah.
workout, shopping, sex, drinking, smoking,
Mm.
you name it. There is, of course, better and worse, but they all are attempts to regulate the nervous system that is always on, and you can
Mm.
see it even sometimes in people. They have clenched fists, they have clenched jaws, the skin is a bit red because there's like this hypertension, like high blood pressure.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You see it in people. And then you have this relief, but soon after you shoot back up into that more
Mm.
survival state where you're a bit more on edge, you're a bit more agitated. It's also that
Mm.
state that makes you successful in the corporate world
Mm.
usually, but it's not sustainable to stay there. It's also not sustainable to stay down there regulated, so you
No.
go into this loop, and at some point the body just snaps, and this is when people fall into burnout. And yeah. or
That makes
autoimmune
sense.
diseases or digestive
Totally.
problems or sleeping problems. And then I even said, I
So,
did a post, I don't know when last year, I said that 99%, of course I made that number up, but like 99% of all illnesses and problems are based on a dysregulated nervous system. I would go that
mhm.
far. I would own that statement.
I think I heard like at least 99% of disease are stress induced, which
And
would be
stress is a
then
dysregulated nervous system. Yeah.
exactly very related to that. So, how do you break the pattern? Like, what do you do?
You
Yeah.
start
If
regulating
you
the
are,
nervous system.
is this a tool that you have? Do
Yeah.
you usually teach
Yeah. I
people?
mean, yeah. Yeah.
Or do you get,
This is
or like in a
literally what I
therapy
do.
session, you get people to go back to a trauma and then rewire?
It's not necessary. It's really not
No.
necessary. It can be, maybe if that's, but it's not necessary because, the moment of that trauma is gone. The
Yeah.
dysregulation of the nervous system is today. So let's say in a more trauma focused coaching session, we still work in the here and now. I
Mm.
don't need to go back there and hear the story of what happened and how it was. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe, and there's different trauma categories that you work with differently. But most
Mm.
importantly is what is your body telling us right now? And how do we create
Mm.
safety right now in this very
Mm.
moment? By using the body and the brain and the nervous system to create safety and start regulating here and now so that excessive energy from the past over time, bit by bit, can be released, so to speak.
Mm.
And the nervous system finds new ways, like almost it's getting wider, it's having more capacity, more flexibility to regulate itself. So that at some point you don't need to use substances anymore. Like, I mean, for me, it got weird. At some point, I just didn't want to drink anymore. And drinking, the nice beer in the evening or so, it's so relaxing. Yeah, because it relaxes. I don't
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
that anymore because I am relaxed. And if I'm not,
Mm.
then I just have a few little mini hacks that within 5 minutes I'm centered.
Yeah.
So it is really using certain techniques that I teach, and I keep on teaching. And now in my new practice, and that I've told you about a bit of a sabbatical and a break that I did, and just followed my own process a bit. I'm bringing more
Mm.
movement, so working even more with the body because I've always worked with the body, but in a more neurological way, guiding people into themselves
Mm.
and experiencing themselves from the inside. And by that, because I can sort of read a little bit where they are in their brain or where the nervous system is,
Mm.
helping them to create an inner awareness, and by that starting to regulate. And bringing in now
Mm.
more movement, actual physical movement. So I just did a teacher training for primal moves in Ibiza,
Mm.
which is very much focused on
Awesome.
releasing the fascia
Yeah.
and bringing movement
Very.
in, because it's body is the body is the key to everything.
It's the nervous system.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
That's where it
And
starts.
also, a friend of mine has created a very powerful, very neuroscience-based protocol where it's not breath work, but it's a technique to use breath holds coming from deep
Mm.
diving, actually, and CO2 retention in the
Mm.
body in order to help the brain with this dysregulations that I mentioned, specifically for neurodivergent and neurotypical people like me, who have ADHD and
Mm.
all these sort of imbalances in the brain. I mean, I'm
Mm.
diagnosed with that. I have chronic low serotonin and dopamine, which then creates depression and ADHD and all these things.
Mm.
To help the brain rewire that. So this is what I'm bringing together now with my practice that I've studied for years, and brain development and
Mm.
movement and CO2 retention and using the breath
Mm.
to create a protocol to rewire yourself on a basically neurocell level.
Mm.
And
And of course,
you
it's a process that takes some time. But do you have maybe like one exercise you do or something that you can give people, like so that they can actually like at least or create that awareness, start with that awareness of like how do you start recognizing when you're
It is a practice like everything else. Like, usually people, when they're like stressed and or overthinking, that's a big problem, right?
mm.
The brain just hijacks you. It's just like,
Mm.
it's like a pattern, a repeated pattern of like going somewhere. So you have to create that awareness through. That's why I usually work with people on a bit of a longer, let's say minimum 3 month, where I'm like, look, let's go on a
Yeah.
journey because we're actually changing neuronal activity in your brain. So we
Mm.
need some time to go together. I can't just do a session where you
Yeah.
tell me
Yeah.
what's going on in your life or what's working or not. I don't care. But I really just want to teach you stuff that you then have a different life and you don't need me
Mm-hmm.
anymore. So, but in the end, whenever some people are so trapped in their heads that they're not even
Mm.
aware that they're trapped in
Yeah.
their heads.
Mm.
It's reality for them. right? Like that incessant, constant voice that is judging and criticizing and thinking about themselves and la 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 la. It's
Yeah.
ongoing, and they think that's reality, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
an illusion. It's
Yeah.
not real.
Yeah.
So you have to create that awareness first, and by
Mm.
connecting to the body, by simply humming, for example.
Hmm.
I don't know if you can hear this now. And humming is
Mm-hmm.
such a great way to connect to the body and to ground because the vibration activates the vagus nerve, which is the 10th cranial
Hmm.
nerve, which activates the parasympathetic nervous system and
Mm-hmm.
allows us to relax. It also builds up nitric oxide in the body. So humming is a great way to I hum on airports, for example. I find airports really stressful and overwhelming, except Zurich maybe. But but all these airports, with like all these like stressed people and angry security people and like the smells in duty free and the
Yeah.
sounds and the
Yeah.
noises, for
So
me is
much.
very overwhelming. Right. So I always wear these headphones, noise canceling, and I walk around and I hum and it helps
Hmm.
me stay connected to my body, aka to the present moment, because the body is always the anchor to the present moment. Because where else should it be?
Hmm.
Like it's always here. Can't be in the past, can't be in the future, because those are also mind-made concepts.
Yeah.
They don't exist, right? The body's always here now.
Beautiful.
So
Yeah.
connecting through the body, through humming, or just now as I'm feeling the chair under my bum and my feet on
Mm.
the ground, brings me right back
That's
to here.
awesome.
So those are very simple techniques you can do in the metro, you can do in the boardroom, you
Mm.
can be in a heated discussion in the boardroom and feel your
Yeah.
feet on the ground, your hands on the wooden table, and your bum on the chair. And you can
That's
look
awesome.
around like this. And by looking
Mm.
around like this and letting your eyes scan the room and the neck following my eyes, this activates the hippocampus in the brain, which is important to help the brain realize I am here right now. So those are a few
Mm.
tools. Humming, sounding, orientation.
Very powerful.
Very simple.
Yeah.
And none of that is like esoteric or woo-woo. It's like all
No, no, no.
neuroscience
It's
based.
just,
Yeah.
yeah, just mindfulness. That's awesome. So right now, with the way that was focusing on healing. Now you're building something related to more healing men. Tell me about the new thing.
Look, I mean, I'm not sure if I'll ever just, be able to work with men because so many women always ask me, are you now, like, can we still work with you? But I just found out in this sabbatical
Yeah.
for some reason where I stopped and
Hmm.
like you said at the beginning, I allowed myself to even let go of my practice and everything because I just needed a break and I had a bit of a not frustration, but I was just, I felt a bit, yeah, I felt a
Hmm.
bit empty, felt a bit lonely, with my work, spending so much time in front of Zoom sessions.
Hmm.
Great, you help other people, fantastic. But like the reality was, I had all these calls, and I closed my laptop, and I'm alone because, like,
Hmm.
I have to work in a quiet space. I can't be with others.
Totally.
So I did that for years, and I was like, I think I need a break.
Yeah.
And
Want some people. Yeah.
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 So I'm changing a lot in my life right now, actually,
Wow.
since because I decided to stop. No more new calls, no discovery calls, no social media, nothing. Just cut it completely. Which of
Hmm.
course was stupid after investing heavily into that business coaching program where we met. But I was like, whatever. Like,
Whatever.
it's what can I do? Yeah. And this was, I tell you, the greatest gift I could have given myself. I mean,
Totally.
it is a gift because living in Switzerland and all of this, and I mean, you burn through cash if you don't work. But it didn't matter because I knew this is really, really important. And I just sat with myself, sat with a lot of
Hmm.
fears, sat with a lot of self-judgment, because the mind
Hmm.
starts going crazy. Because many people, and men specifically, we identify with doing and achieving. And so my mind was like, what the fuck? Are you crazy? You're throwing everything away. You're turning 40. I turned 40 in December. You're turning 40 now. And look what you're doing. Everybody around you is successful and millionaires. And here you are. And you should be supposed to do the 5 daily negotiables. You're not even doing social media. Like everybody's going to forget about you. You're going to end up under the bridge.
Yeah.
Like
Worst
huge
cases.
financial fears, huge, like I'm gonna be like
Hmm.
literally living in a trailer park under like and the mind believe it. So I spent a lot of time sitting with that and sitting in that fire, that hellfire of
That's.
fear and
Hmm.
conditioning and ego until I came out of it more clear. And I felt because I've experienced that and I've
Yeah.
realized how I, as a man, so incredibly conditioned, God. And I started to share that a little bit, and people resonated a lot with it. I
mm,
realized the one thing that I would love to have on my personal path now is
mm,
a tribe of brothers, a tribe of men
mm,
who I can, because many of my friends from my previous, let's say, lifestyle, they don't resonate with that anymore. They live a different
mm,
life, and I don't judge
mm,
them, but they're just not on that
mm.
path of inner evolvement and personal growth, and
Totally.
it's just different things, and
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
fine. So I was like, I would love to be able to have a community of people where I can, and I have a few
Mm,
brothers like that, which I'm very privileged to have, where you can speak about such processes and such insecurities, but also like
mm.
business and money and relationship and
Yeah.
like, hey, like all these topics that are important to us as business owners or entrepreneurs or
Yeah.
whatever we all are, but also being able to talk about, hey, I'm really struggling with that. And hey, listen, I'm sitting here and I feel I need the sabbatical, but I'm so scared to lose everything. And, I feel like
Mm,
I'm a failure. Where do we
mm,
men? I mean, if you go to a business networking event, where can you talk that openly and honestly about your innermost values? And you
mm.
can't wait, and you don't have to go to a coach or a therapist, but brotherhood. I think
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is really something that we miss, and I've experienced it in certain moments or in certain retreats. And I was like, wow, this is what I've been missing. So this
Mm.
is where I
The connection.
came with this whole men stuff and like creating a brotherhood, which is something I'm working on. I will be doing. And I came with this whole brand name, which is called M3, Modern Mature Masculinity, because I was thinking,
Mm,
what is masculinity these days?
mm.
Is it really sitting with this right here, by the way, on that floor, on that meditation pillow?
Yeah.
I said the whole winter. I was like, it's crazy how my mind is so conditioned on financial success. And again, there's nothing wrong with financial success. I enjoy a great life and all these things and what is in this time and age where we're now, where somehow I feel there's either this old world macho stuff, you know what I
Mm,
mean, sort of that kind of,
mm.
like feeling is bullshit, and like, just sort of that overly tough heart, like kind of old world stuff.
Yeah. You see it
Maybe
in some
out
cultures still. That's why it's there too.
in some cultures, yes, that's there. So like just like no inner awareness and no
Mm,
nothing. It's just, very brainy. Or the other extreme, which is what you said, in Bali, the people who drank ayahuasca too much times and basically washed away their own balls with it. I mean, ayahuasca has nothing to do with it, but like it's losing, men coming completely feminized
mm,
and losing a sense of like archaic masculinity, which in today's world, we have to be fair, is a very no-no. There's this word like
mm.
toxic masculinity, and
Yeah, yeah.
testosterone has a really bad rep. It's such bullshit.
Yeah,
I mean, we need testosterone.
yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But like, there's these extremes. Like, I see it almost like the political parties in America. There's like this Republican thing and the Democrat thing, like the woke culture and basically the
Cringe.
guns. So like, where's the
Insane.
middle path between having an inner
Uh,
awareness, being able to do things that we men like to do because we are archaic and there's certain things that we just love doing. But
it's
yeah,
it's crazy, man. I was literally, I think either today while swimming or yesterday while running, I was wondering, like, I had one thought. I think it was like one thought that was telling me, like, why are you trying to achieve or like get so good at triathlon? And I was like, what the fuck? Like, am I supposed to be super spiritual, feminine boy now, or can I? What's the balance here?
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm
No,
curious about the answer. Like, is there's definitely not a balance. Nothing is balanced in life. But yeah, well,
I mean,
how have you found? I guess for you personally, that the
I
want
tell you
to
what.
drive to achieve and
Yeah,
self
I tell
awareness,
you what. Like,
peace.
obviously, it's became very scary once I came up with this term M3, modern mature
Okay.
masculinity, as in something where I was
Mm,
like, oh wow, I think this is because in the end, I'm talking about my own path, and I'm
yeah.
definitely not saying that I figured shit out and that I'm,
Yeah.
like, I'm evolved and I'm, the archetype of
Yeah.
the new modern masculine.
Yeah.
Like, of course, not, I'm not claiming that. Putting something on my Instagram profile saying founder M3, modern mature masculinity was like, fuck. Now I have
Yeah.
to sort of live up to that. But again, here
Of
comes in
course.
the perfectionist. No, I'm a work in progress. But what I can
Mm,
own is
mm-hmm.
that I am deep in my integrity with shadow work and being honest
Mm,
about my, trying to navigate myself and understand patterns and conditioning and do the healing work and the actual real shadow work and no spiritual bypassing as I've, you know, but actually, honestly, truthfully sitting with myself and evolving as a human and as a man.
Yeah.
And at the same time, yes, also being able to enjoy certain, whatever, like physical activity and testosterone stuff and working out and, pumping the guns and, all that stuff and, connecting with brothers and just, be, you don't have to be more holy than the Pope in a way, you can just also, so not being so dogmatic and definitely not being
Yeah.
part of the woke culture and all of that,
Mm.
which I find, I'm not going to get into that. But so this is where I'm like, okay, this is working for me, and I consider this as mature. And in many ways, I'm
Yeah.
also very immature. And then
Yeah.
like, I'm
Sure.
there's many things but it's a work in progress, and we're figuring things out. But I'm at a point where I can say, okay, I can own this, and I have an expertise in that,
Mm.
and I have an experience, a solid experience in this whole inner work and
Mm.
all of it. But I have not, lost my way in, as you said, the spiritually feminine boy. So, and this is kind of what I mean with this M3 modern mature masculinity is just like, okay, this is a path that I found out works, which for me combines best of both
Mm.
worlds.
Mm.
Sort of the inner awareness, the sort of the
Beautiful.
grounded real life spirituality, but also like, hey, let's have a business. I'm in for making money. Let's be grounded. Let's be real. Let's not get lost in some esoteric woo woo unrelatable high flying fluff that's just like
Mm.
what the fuck. So this is kind of what this whole thing is about.
Totally. Awesome, man. Well, we just start to wrap up. One thing I will mention, and I have one last question for you, is
Sure.
that I think it starts one important part, especially like mentioning the US makes me think of this. Like if a person would just like live somewhere else, they would have a completely different perspective if they like. And so just mentioning the thing of getting different perspectives is a very powerful way to start, like how other ways can work and how you can have that balance and maturity. For you, my last question is like, what's the most important thing people who are embarking on this journey need to know, you think?
On which journey?
The journey of healing their nervous system. And yeah, let's say that.
Think about it for a moment. Okay, where I am now, the answer would be one, your problems, whatever it might be, stress, overthinking, depression, ADHD, all of that, burnout, feeling lost, feeling disconnected, they are physical. They're biological. They can be healed in the body.
Yeah.
The body is the gateway. So do not make the mistake to try and find answers in spirituality and going away from the body, as in like, oh, my soul has chosen this. Maybe, I'm not denying that. I believe this stuff too. I'm a deep believer. I pray every day. But the way is through the body, and the body then actually is the gateway to a grounded, embodied spirituality. So please know that whatever you're suffering from, there's nothing wrong with you. But there's very, very likely an explanation. And once you start embracing the fact, and this is what I'm doing now to speak openly, is like, I'm neurodivergent. There's nothing wrong with me. Just like I'm wired differently in my brain. So I need to work with myself differently. And then everything changes. And like, as I said, I was at a path, a very dark place, and there's always a way out.
100%. 100%. I saw one quote, I think it was that like if you have a group of apples and then there was an orange, the apples wouldn't say that orange is less apple. They just say it's different. Like I don't even know if I'm making sense right now, but
Yeah,
maybe
for sure.
just
I get it.
this. Yeah,
I
doesn't need
tried
to
so
be.
long in my life to be an apple.
If people want to get to know you more, see how you're building this brotherhood, where should they find you?
At the moment, best is LinkedIn and Instagram. Both is my name, Johannes.Eisenburger. Because this is where I'm posting and sharing, and I'm building, new websites now about this specifically. Those two platforms are where I'm active every day.
Johannes.Eisenburger. You said you had a newsletter too, or you're writing. Is that just on LinkedIn?
I'm writing a book, and newsletter I'll have once I find a VA who helps me set it up because I can't do it.
Cool. Awesome, dude. Then that wraps up today.
Wonderful.
Thank you
Thank you
so
very
much,
much
man.
for your time and your questions. It was a lot of fun.